Hello, everyone. Today is Monday, February 21st, 2022. Two pre-election attacks in Somalia kill at least 15, injured dozens. This article is taken from VOA, the Voice of America. At least 15 people have been killed in Somalia and more than 30 others injured in two attacks just as the country's indirect parliamentary elections enter their final stage. In the central Somalia town of Beledwyne, a suicide bomber walked into a restaurant and blew himself up, killing at least 13 people and injuring at least 18 others, according to health and security officials. The restaurant was packed with local officials and politicians. I remember after 9/11, uh, September 11th, 2001, when the United States got attacked, and over 2,000 people died in New York, Washington D.C., and some even in Pennsylvania. And I actually responded to that. I went to the Pentagon right after that. So I know this firsthand, and working on a military base, I know exactly what was going on. I mean, the traffic was backed up. It would take people hours to get on post, and women were having babies waiting to get on post. It was really bad. But I remember one of the measures that we did, and by the way, we would change the policies. As I was a military police, so I was right at the forefront of this. For instance, we would check cars. We would check the cars coming on the base, and then we would check areas that were this big originally. Up, to compartments, go and just check through everything, and then after a while, we said, "Oh no, check areas that are only this big." So you change things as you go. But I remember one thing that we did throughout the country that was recommended, and it was a lot of places, most places you would go to, they had this policy. You couldn't go into certain areas if you had a backpack, and so likewise, this person shouldn't have been allowed in that restaurant. And the security posture in Somalia, as well as maybe other countries, but definitely in Somalia, especially in places like built up areas like Mogadishu, where you have suicide bombers walking into establishments, it should be such that people with certain garments or whatever shouldn't be allowed, from a distance. No, you can't come in here because there's that article of clothing, be it a backpack or whatever, is not allowed, and everybody in the country knows it. So this should, in my opinion, it shouldn't have happened. Witnesses said Beledwyne Deputy District Commissioner Abdurrahman Kanan is among the dead, while a regional lawmaker was among those wounded and is in critical condition. Horrible. I mean, these are top officials. The attack claimed by the Al-Shabaab militant group occurred on the eve of the first round of voting for 25 parliamentary seats in the Beledwyne constituency. And I don't know if you remember, I covered articles on this area, Beledwyne. It was a contested area. Security personnel were sent there. Special forces trained by the Turkish military, either Turkish military or Qatar, or one of the Near Eastern countries' militaries, and then but there was a dispute between the prime minister and the president, but finally they took care of it. But this is of all of Somalia, this was the hottest area when it came to security and such. Among those vying for the seats is Fahad Yassin, the country's former intelligence chief and the president's national security advisor. Yassin arrived in Beledwyne hours after Saturday's deadly explosion, and his seat is considered the most popular and influential in the country. And he won, by the way. It was announced after this article came out. But one thing I learned, and you'll see as I read on, is that it seems that a lot of the elected officials during these elections are from the security or intelligence departments. So this shows the importance that the Somali government and people are putting on security, and so there's hope. And I've been saying for the past 2 months that there's something going on in Somalia. And the reason why is because they told, I think it was Amazon, the African multinational Pan-African peacekeepers, that they could leave, or it was either them or it was the UN peacekeeper. I think it was actually the UN peacekeepers. I'm quite sure. I think Amazon is still there, but it was the UN peacekeepers. The Somali government said you can leave. And so after that, I thought there has to be something up their sleeve. They have to be, when you need as many people, as many boots on the ground as possible, why would you let the UN personnel, peacekeepers, leave? So they have to have something on the horizon. And this kind of lends support to that hypothesis, because all of these former, or all of these security and intelligence personnel experts are being elected to office, to parliament. A VOA reporter in Beledwyne says security has been tightened throughout the city ahead of the Sunday election. Meanwhile, in Somalia's port town of Bosaso, an improvised explosive device blew up at a tea shop, killing 2 civilians and injuring 13 others, including soldiers. No claim of responsibility was made for the attack, and security officials told VOA they are investigating. Bosaso town is slated to hold a first round of voting for 15 parliamentary seats. The president of Somalia's Puntland state, Saeed Deni, is expected to arrive Sunday in Bosaso. The long-delayed indirect election in Somalia is due to be completed on February 25th. The upper house concluded last year, while so far 160 of the 275 members of parliament have been elected in the lower house. Somalia leaders are under tremendous pressure from the U.S. and other supporters to wrap up elections, which now are behind schedule by more than a year. In a statement Friday, the U.S. Embassy in Somalia called on leaders to complete the election in a credible and transparent manner by February 25th, warning the U.S. will hold accountable those who obstruct and undermine the process. Earlier this month, the United States announced a decision to bar current and former Somali officials and others accused of undermining the democratic process in Somalia from traveling to the U.S.